Global shock. There are rumors that 113 billion euros worth of German gold stored in the US has been lost. What is happening at Fort Knox? What will Friedrich Merz demand? Germany's official reserves amount to 3,352 tons, behind only the United States, 8,133 tons. About 37% of Germany's gold, 1,236 tons, is held by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Now, economically collapsing Germany under Chancellor-in-waiting Friedrich Merz urgently needs the repatriation of this gold from the US, he says, and now it claims to recover 1,200 tons of gold from the US worth 113 billion euros. The possibility that these reserves no longer exist is causing shock and awe in international financial circles. This is not the first such case where the repatriation of reserves has been requested. From German Chancellor Angela Merkel former Chancellor Merkel also wanted to repatriate all of Germany's gold back to Germany, but for some reason she was unable to do so. German reserves from World War II. Germany has the second largest gold reserves in the world, on paper at least. The country's official reserves amount to 3,352 tons, behind only the United States, which is 8,133 tons. About 37% of Germany's gold, 1,236 tons, held by Reserve Bank of New York. The gold was brought to the United States for safekeeping in the aftermath of World War II, when the threat of Soviet tanks loomed large in the Cold War. In 2013, German politicians first began repatriating quantities of the precious metal. By 2017, a decent portion of the country's gold reserves have been returned to Germany's central bank, mostly from France and England. Only about 300 tons of that came from the New York Fed, which brings to us today when more than a third of Germany's gold is still in the vaults of the New York Fed in Manhattan. The pressure? Today, the German conservatives, SDU, are pushing once again to at least be able to register their reserves with the New York Fed, something they have not yet managed to do. Isn't that strange? They haven't confirmed that. And according to the statement by Michael Jager, head of the European Taxpayers Association, to the German newspaper Bild, the Bundesbank and the German government must show foresight in this phase of the global upheaval of power relations and immediately retrieve German gold from the US. Especially at a time when Berlin and Brussels are discussing huge new debt, we need immediate access to all gold reserves in case of an emergency. This excerpt from the Bild article with the dramatic title, "Bring Our Gold Back from the US Immediately," is not surprising that President Trump's desire to control the gold reserves of Fort Knox has not inspired confidence in foreign governments that store their gold in the United States. In another excerpt from statements by Michael Jager via Bild, he points out even Trump wants to inspect U.S. gold in Fort Knox to be sure, then this should also be the minimum requirement of the new federal government for German gold in the U.S. German Ministers of Parliament Markus Ferber added, "I demand regular checks of Germany's gold reserves. Official representatives of the Bundesbank must personally register the bars and document their results. It's becoming clear that the old system of blind trust is collapsing." Why can't Europeans, seeing how gold prices are rising, return it from the United States to their countries? So it's a shock and awe for the global economy. Fort Knox, the most protected facility in the United States, the gold storage is located inside the military base. There are 3 security parameters outside, all under power, every inch scanned by motion sensors. 4,000 soldiers are constantly on combat duty. Germany, Great Britain, Italy, and the Netherlands currently keep a significant part of their gold reserves in the United States, but recently decided to return their gold to their homeland. Why? First of all, they don't want to pay Americans for storage anymore. The price for the service is linked to the value of gold and is constantly increasing now, so it would be cheaper to store it domestically. Secondly, the Europeans want to scare Trump because there have been rumors for a long time that the United States is exploiting other people's gold. When these countries get this gold back, they will definitely check it. And if they return it and there is no gold but something else, they will not be able to hide it because in this case, they will bear such responsibility, in fact, for the loss of gold, said Lazar Badalov, associate professor at the Faculty of Economics of Lund University. Inventory control and leasing of inventory. 16 years ago, bankers in Hong Kong were shocked to discover that the gold bars they received from Fort Knox turned out to be actually gold-plated tungsten plates, that is, fake gold. Can you imagine? They got it from Fort Knox, so what happened to the real gold? The results of the investigation were classified. The last inspection of Fort Knox was in 1974, and it was inconclusive. It suspected that the fears driving Germany's desire to repatriate its gold stem largely from the same story we have alluded to, the gold leasing conspiracy. For decades, rumors are circulating that central banks are leasing gold reserves, including those of foreign governments. The gold could hypothetically be sold on the open market. Theoretically, this would help maintain a cap on the price of physical gold while also supporting monetary gold. For now, the leasing conspiracy is largely hypothetical. The world of gold reserves is incredibly opaque, which of course only adds to the intrigue of conspiracy theories. But it is undeniable that something has changed in the last decade. Governments are no longer so complacent when it comes to gold reserves held by foreign central banks. This is yet another sign that we are approaching the end of an era of fiat currency dominance. Gold has begun to make its inevitable return to the international monetary system. Renowned financial analyst Jim Rickards wrote about gold leasing in his book, The New Case for Gold. A central bank can lease gold from one of the banks in London Bullion Market Association, which includes major global players such as Goldman Sachs, Citibank, JP Morgan Chase, and HSBC. Monetary gold leasing is often done through an unaccountable intermediary called the Bank for International Settlements, BIS. Historically, the BIS has been used as a major conduit for manipulating the gold market and for conducting transactions between central banks and commercial banks. The BIS is the most opaque institution in the world, and the BIS is the ideal institution through which central banks manipulate global financial markets, including gold, with complete opacity. Why would central banks lease their gold? Officially, so that they can earn a small income. But some believe it also helps keep prices low. Ideas for a gold price suppression system revolve mainly around leasing monetary gold as well as paper gold and paper silver, that which only appears on contracts. We sometimes refer to gold futures contracts trading on exchanges such as COMEX and LBMA. Paper metals can also be refer to unallocated or pooled gold accounts where multiple people may believe they own the same piece of possibly leased gold. When you buy gold futures contracts in total, there are hundreds of ounces of paper metal traded for every ounce of actual physical bullion in a vault. Most of the time, the physical metal never changes hands or is delivered. Paper, gold, and silver are simply traded on the market, and then transactions are settled in cash. However, recently, this has started to change. The use of technical gold. Technical gold is also used in many industries. There are 2 grams per computer. At least 263 million computers were sold worldwide. That's 552.5 tons of gold. There is 0.034 grams of gold in every smartphone, and 1.022 billion units were sold last year. Together, that's 41.5 tons of gold. Another 44 tons are cars, 4 tons are televisions, and so on, and all the figures are for 2024. Not to mention that the military industry consumes a huge amount of gold, especially microprocessors. We don't know the amount that has been quietly sold to technology companies in recent decades. It's a mystery, especially considering that the United States is the most technologically advanced country. Since the beginning of its era, the West has stopped buying gold from Russia. Now it's going east and south, and it is very possible that the United States does not have the right amount of gold to support their technical achievements, and even more so that there is no borrowed gold for Germany itself. This is from Banking News. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.